Welcome to Never Rewrite. I'm Isaac Askew.
And I'm Jeffrey Sherman. And today we're joined by special guest Aadil Farid to talk about his adventures in computerizing the Indian Railways ticketing system back in the 1980s. So just to set some context, Aadil and I go back 10, 15 years ago now at UBS, and he would tell me these amazing stories that helped me as a developer learn so much about user empathy with his trials and misadventures, computerizing what had been a totally paper system until his team. So Aadil, could you introduce yourself and I guess set the stage?
Yes, so my name is Adil Farid, and I was born and brought up and graduated in one of the well-known universities in India. After I graduated, I started working in one of the only computer companies or the IT companies back in India, and there were only government projects that time going on. I moved to the United States in early 91, and ever since I've been working in IT and various other industries. So I'm blessed with two children. Both are graduated from, and they're off to their own lives now. And Jeff and I have worked at UBS on various projects. So yes, it's been a very wonderful relationship, working relationship going back last 15 years or so.
Great. So set the stage for us. You got out of college and you went to work for one of the few IT companies. How did you end up working on the railway system? Or let me, I guess, give you the...
Mm-hmm. It is a very, very interesting story. Yes, go ahead if you have a question.
Well, just the way I remember the story, and it could just be my rose-colored glasses of the memory of you telling it, was that the system used to book tickets out like 3 months in advance, like 90 days. Mm-hmm. And people who wanted to go far basically needed to stand in line for 2 or 3 days so that they could get the tickets as soon as they became available. And then if they didn't get the ticket the day, then they just have to wait for the next day. And so during the high travel periods, people would wait in line for like a week, hoping to get a ticket for 90 days later.
That is true, yes. Before we get to that point, but let me explain you how I transitioned into this IT area. When I graduated, the computer science as a discipline, as a faculty, it was non-existent. None of the Indian universities were offering computer science as a discipline. So majority of the people who are working in any kind of programming area, they came from some kind of engineering background and primarily from the electrical engineering background. So when I graduated, I actually graduated in the civil engineering discipline. So I was hired by this company, CMC, and India was leaning more towards Russia that time. It was more a socialist country than an open economy kind of thing. So it was going through a transition that time. So there were a lot of restrictions. So what happened was a lot of American companies like the Pepsi, Coca-Cola, IBM, they were forced out of India in 70s because of the socialist or the communist leaning government. And then all those employees who were left behind, they became, in the IT area, they became part of this company called Computer Maintenance Corporation of India, CMC. So they were like former IBM employees, and the CMC took over those IT operations. So when I graduated, so they were doing different kinds of programming projects, and one of the projects was designing the structures in the civil engineering area and doing the analysis of that. So they hired me as a domain expert with some kind of programming background. So I started to, we had at least 1 or 2 courses offered as part of our engineering program. So I was hired as a civil engineer.
Was it COBOL and Fortran?
It was COBOL and Fortran and some assembly, yes, but primarily Fortran. Yes, I should mention that, and it will transition into how Fortran was utilized in the reservation system as well. So on college campus interview, I was hired for a position as a civil engineer. And then I joined the company. My first day of work, I don't know if you're familiar with the CPM PERT chart. This is like an activity chart primarily for the planning purpose. Like in civil engineering, you do planning, right? What you do first, the foundations, then the erecting the column, then the beams, and the whole planning kind of thing. So it
Okay.
comes out as a network diagram. It comes out a network diagram. It has the nodes and it has the edges, and so it looks like a network diagram. So I had been working on the CPM PERT programming project in my college. The first day of work, I thought like, okay, this is the IBM terminal 3070. I started working off an IBM 3070. And then I was trying to write the feed the the Fortran program into the system. So one of the managers, and he was walking by, he saw a new face, and he goes like, "Hey, what's your name?" So I introduced myself. He said, "Oh, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm just feeding this network analysis program into the system." Now, network analysis means a different thing to different people,
Mm-hmm.
right? A person who is coming from the engineering background, the project planning and all, the network is a different network. It's a network of activities. In his mind, it was a computer network. So he thought, I'm a computer network expert. I had never
Excellent.
heard about computer network. I had never seen anything beyond a personal computer. And this guy thinks that we have an Indonet. That time we have a nationwide, the IBM mainframe network that was set up by the IBM originally. And he thought that, hey, this guy can be very useful in terms of this network analysis. And now he's talking on a different plane. I'm talking, he said, can it analyze my network? I said, sure, why not? If it is a network analysis, he's talking something different. I'm responding something different. We think we are understanding each other. So he said, "Okay, let me go talk to the divisional manager." So he went and he spoke to the divisional manager. He said that I want this guy. He seems to be network expert, and I want him to be on my. I have never seen a network before in my life. No modem, no router, no switches, no idea about how network is, and all of a sudden I'm labeled as a network expert. So he comes out and he said that, okay, DM is happy with me taking you in my team. And so he goes to his office and then he realized something else. He said, you know what? There were a couple of folks on the railways reservation system working, and the system is in early phase. And these two guys are not happy because system was actually we were located in Mumbai or Bombay that time, and these guys were from a remote area, from a different city, so they were not really happy living in Bombay. They wanted to go back, but they could not. The condition was they have to finish the project, they have to train somebody to take over their position, then only they can leave. So one of the guy was and by the way, these were like super the duper brilliant talented engineers, very and they all did the self study because there was no
Right.
formal training offered, so they have to do the self learning and self study. And they were really expert in their field in terms of programming, in terms of database organization, in terms of the network setup, in terms of the internals of the computers, memory management, and all kinds of these cool ideas, the recovery, the journaling, you name it. So he thought about that. He said, oh, this guy can really help me relieve those two individuals if I put him on the railways reservation system. So he came back to me and said, you know what, I changed my mind. Now I have a better idea for you. We are going to the railway station. So that was my first trip to the Mumbai station. And that worked out very well because our office was a little bit in the interior of Mumbai. In terms of my commute, I had to take
Mhm.
the train from my place, come to Mumbai, and this office or the computer reservation center was right there. So it
Nice.
really helped me in my commute too. I said, okay, this is really great. So he took me to the office and then he introduced me to this gentleman, Anand. He said, Anand, I have a good news for you. So Anand looked at me. He said, what is that? He said that you train this guy and you go to Madras. You train him and you go to Madras. And Anand said, oh, really? He said, when the manager said, yeah, I mean, if you train him, and the day he said that he's comfortable, you are booking your ticket back to your place where you can go and you. So Anand had the incentive to put all his effort and dump whatever he knew and train me as quickly as possible. So he was very
Well,
much.
wait for a moment. At what point did you realize there was a miscommunication? And then, like, did you just keep quiet and just like hope that they would not understand that there was a confusion for like the network thing you guys were talking about?
I did not. I was not aware of the network, so I would not know that there is a confusion. I thought like, okay, this is a network, and I had no. So after working with the reservation system, when I realized what the real network looks like, and then I realized that Mr. Srinivasan was talking about the computer network. This is the data communication setup, and then and I was talking about something else. Yes, so it was like much later.
At
Almost
that
like
point, you had already actually gotten the experience that you needed.
I already got into it, and I did not come to work on that Indonet, right? I worked on Indonet for much, much later, maybe 2 years later. And by the time I had learned a lot about the network and the modems and switches and muxes and all those kind of equipment. So yes.
You must have just been confused for a bit. Like, how in the world did he see this in me? Like, this is not related to anything that about the original conversation that we had.
But that was really a game changer for me, a life changer for me. Because if I were to continue for the position I was hired, I would have been still working in the domain of the building construction and the skyscrapers and the finite element analysis and that kind of thing, and I would have been more focused on that. But that was a transition point for me. That was a true transition for me into the information technology, IT technology. Right. So this is how your destiny is determined by some stupid words you throw out there, like network analysis, right?
I feel like it's like the plot of, what was it, that show, the IT Crowd, where the misunderstanding makes them, so I feel like it's such a good story of so many people have accidentally fell in, especially in the early days. When you started, the internet was only like 10 years old. Email was only like 10 years old.
So, that was my story of transition. And then I started working with other folks. And they were all young folks, but they were really expert in their field because they were pressed by the time, by the lack of resources. As I mentioned, that India was very much socialist-leaning country. And there was, and of course, because of the a socialist government, there were a lot of restrictions on imports. So before I came to United States, I did not see a can of Coke that was simply non-existent. I mean, now these things are very different. So likewise, importing any kind of electronics, the high-end electronics that was needed for computing or computational purpose, it was not easy to get hold of. So we were very, very much pressed by because of the internal restriction and because of the external restrictions too, because of the geopolitical reasons. US had the restrictions in terms of what kind of hardware India can get hold of, because there was a fear of the nuclear research and all that kind of thing, right? So it was not easy for us to even get a memory card or a high-end CPU.
Right. It's so different than today, where you might accidentally grab a million machines and leave them on AWS for a weekend and blow out your budget. Back then, you couldn't even get a memory card because somebody was, well, not somebody, the US was concerned it might get diverted to the nuclear program.
Right. And Indian government had its own restriction too, because of they want to force or pressurize the Indian manufacturers to produce the equipment. They wanted to have it all must be locally produced. It's all India-centric thing. It was not very, very easy because you need a lot of expertise, especially in the manufacturing, precision tooling, and those kind of things. And that was still emerging. It's not that easy to develop, and especially in a developing country. So when we first looked at the system, these were the very much experts. I got trained by these folks. Some of them are really, really expert in the networking area. And that to networking, when I talked about from the hardware all the way up, from the bare bone hardware, from connecting
Mm-hmm.
the actual wires into the mux, into the modems, and some of the will be on the radio waves communication. So, and then all the way up into the data link layer, physical. I used to push the physical Ethernet cards, and we used to get the Ethernet cable. So if in order to attach a new machine, you have to have a special punch. And then who would do that when we did not have any other engineers or hardware experts? We have to do it on ourselves. And then, of course, you plan it. You basically, you don't have like luxury of having, if something goes bad, then you have infinite amount of hardware supplies. So you had to be really, really, really careful on that. So punch the Ethernet cable, attach the connectors, and then you connect your Ethernet card. And then from the data link layer to the network layer, all the way up into the software. So I would consider myself really lucky that I was trained by those kind of highly motivated individuals. And that time, India was also experiencing the brain drain. So a lot of Australian companies, Middle Eastern companies, and US and European companies and banks, they were hiring Indian engineers. So there was a lot of demand. So the attrition rate was very high in our company. Attrition rate was very high. Within 8 months, I became the senior most member of my team.
Wow.
I mean, from college student to the senior most member of the team, leading the team basically within 8 months. So I think it was a lot of pressure. So the
It's like a
railways
startup today.
Sorry?
Kind of, yeah.
The joke about many startups are run by kids right out of college who don't realize just how green they are and how new. And so then there's the joke is like, oh well, the senior engineers have a year of experience and they're leading the people who just got out of college who have no experience. So it's like they've got infinitely more. They must be senior.
So when we looked at this railways reservation system, India is a country which has a very large population, very vast country, and people have need to travel because it is not the wealth and the economy is evenly distributed across. So there are few economic centers like Bombay or Madras or Calcutta, New Delhi. So these are the big cities. But a majority of the people working in there, especially the labor class and the other people, they are the temporary migrants into the regions, but their families are still living back in the villages and in the inland areas. So these people would come to Mumbai, for example, but they have a need to travel once in a year, once in 6 months, based on their family needs and all. The flying or the airplane was a very expensive option. Most of the people would not or could not afford it. The road system is really, really poor. Now it is improving. Still, it's not there, but it's much better than what we used to have. The highways were pretty much non-existent highway, and the distances are really long. So it is not that easy to commute or to travel using the roadways or the airways. So the only viable option was the train option, which Britishers had uh, established a very good network of the train system. So that was working well. It is cheap, efficient, and safe. And obviously, because of the poverty, because of the other reasons, still India was emerging. It did not have a lot of trains per se or a lot of hardware resources to implement. So there was, of course, a lot of competition. Resources were less and demand was much high. And if you don't have a proper check and balance system, a weaker judiciary system, a weaker what you call police system, then it also gives rise to a lot of corruption. So that becomes a foundation for corruption. If you need the ticket, if you have a need, an urgency, and then you walk, it's all manual. So you walk up to the a booking window. The guy who is sitting behind the window, he does not have much of an accountability. He does not have much. You cannot complain, and even if you complain, your complaints will not be listened to. Nobody would pay any attention to. In fact, only if you can bribe. So there is a chain of all of this, the corrupt elements across the board. So an individual who walks up to the window and says that, okay, I want to book a ticket from Mumbai to Amritsar, then even if the ticket is available, the guy can simply say that, sorry, it's waitlist, not available. And then you put your hand in your pocket and then you grab 200 rupees and then you give it to him. All of a sudden, waitlist becomes confirmed. So that was the state. And of course, this is all manual. Depending upon how long the line is, the guy would demand either 50 rupees or 100 rupees or 200 rupees. And then depending upon because it's not like everybody's rich and wealthy. It's not like everybody can dip their hand in their pocket and demand 200. So people would try to negotiate, oh, I don't have 200. So it would take a long time. So you can imagine that to issue one ticket, it is now because of this corruption, negotiation. And then it may not be, in some cases, suppose the train is maybe really full. So, okay, can you find the alternative? Can you find this date? Can you find that date? Now you have to flip the pages. So you used to flip the pages to find the train numbers. So all that would take like nearly 10 to 15 minutes on an average for one passenger. Just imagine.
Jeez.
And because of the demand, there will be long lines. People would have to just stand there for like hours and hours just to get to the window and only to hear that, oh, sorry, the ticket is not available, or you'll shell out large chunk of money. So this was the state of the system. And of course, you cannot complain. And even if you try to complain, the complaints will just fall on the deaf ear. So it will not be paid attention to.
Right.
So when the system was introduced, so multiple challenges we faced. So one of the challenge is to get the buy-in of the reservation clerks. And now the computer was not that commonly available. People had not seen the system, how they function. A lot of people were under the impression, because imagine this India was a country. Yes, education system in some areas was really, 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 really good, but a majority of the population was still illiterate. They were not educated. So people had this kind of concept that, oh, computer is going to do everything. That means I would not have any job.
Sounds familiar.
Computer will take over my job, and as such, the unemployment rate is very, very, very high. Very high. If computer comes in and takes over my job, what am I going to do? So there was a lot of resistance from that person, from internal, and it was all unionized. So it's all union. So you have to convince the union leaders, and then obviously union leaders, some of them were really sharp. They were thinking, they were asking questions. What is computer? Specifically, they were asking, so what can we do to this thing? Will computer tell us when the computer what time the ticket was booked and not booked? When we were attending those meetings, I was very, very young that time. I did not have any exposure to the real world business or these kind of meetings. That I used to, we would answer those questions, and later on.
So I'm just imagining the union people wanted to know, like, oh, can you time how fast the clerks are going? Because they're worried that there's going to be like, oh, your ticketing agents aren't working fast enough. And you probably said, yes, it could totally time everything.
Yes. And that is what their worry was, because in the previous setup that they had a requirement, a ticket agent could issue only 50 tickets or 30, 40 tickets in a shift. Or so this is how they were. It is not all come and stand in front of line. Hey, and if somebody is the one who implemented or pushed for this one, and of course, all purchasing a ticket.
There weren't even libraries for printing that
No,
stuff back
there
then?
were
Oh,
no
wow.
libraries, and some
Yeah.
maybe you have
Mm.
to take them in the
Yeah. Mhm.
We had
all
16
that
megs of
logic
RAM, so.
like
Mhm.
extreme CPU
Mm.
gets it goes to CPU. So incoming
Mm.
train, which
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
and hard
Right.
this hard this
Mhm.
path you just
Mhm.
off and it
I
takes
think
care
my
of your
printer
CPU is
has
off.
more than 16 megs of RAM. I'm certain of it.
Especially people who are coming from, so you have during that
Mm.
time if they
Jeez.
that working on a die
Jeez, man.
Wow.
Man.
I
because it was
am loving
the
this.
ticket train will get to full with
So 60 days out, the train will be full in 10 minutes. So if you want a ticket, you have to get there 3 days early. That's
so the one guy booking and 20 seconds is flush your
timed out.
transaction ticket
Oh man.
and getting
He's
them
gonna have to
because
sleep. Yeah.
it's kind of thing. Then you can
Nice.
confirm.
Oh well, I was gonna say I love everything about this, and I hate to stop, but I have a hard stop. Could we? We've never done a part 2, but could we do a part 2 with you and bring you back because the stories are just so good, and I think our listeners will get so much value out of it, and we're right up into the meat of it where you're talking like you're iterating through the impact of all the various changes and like on the users, and that hits me here. It's like, oh, we didn't make the printers do a debug thing when they start up, and now this person had to sleep on the floor for an extra day. Like that, those are the kinds of stories that just move me. Could we end here right now and then bring you back again if you have time?
I am looking forward to it. Yeah, this is great.
Excellent. Yes. Thank you all for listening. I'm Jeffrey Sherman.
And I'm Isaac Askew, and this is Never Rewrite.